The girl in the silence. She sat alone. Day after day, she sat on a broken stone bench. The sky above her was always gray, filled with heavy clouds. The wind was cold and the ground was dry and cracked. There were no animals, no people, no sounds, only the quiet hum of dead machines around her. She was not old, not young, just forgotten. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes large and silver. She belonged to an alien race, one that had left her behind. Why they did it, no one knew, not even her. She only remembered the ship leaving, and then silence. Around her were metal towers, half buried in sand. Some were bent, some broken, all lifeless. Once, this place had power. Once it had light, energy, and purpose. Now it was only a graveyard of forgotten things. She had learned to live with silence, to drink from the small water well, to eat strange dry plants, to sleep under the broken roof of an old station. But inside, she was fading, not her body, but her spirit. Until one day, something changed. It began with a sound, a low rumble in the sky. She looked up, her eyes wide. Something was falling, fast. A ship, small and old, with fire at its tail. It crashed behind the hills, with a loud explosion that shook the ground. For hours, she didn't move. Was it real, or just a dream made by her lonely mind? But then she saw smoke. She stood up and walked. Her feet were weak, but her curiosity was strong. She found the ship half buried in the sand, metal torn, windows cracked. And then, he stepped out. He was human. She had only heard of them in stories. Strange, rare, dangerous, smart. But this one didn't look dangerous. He wore a dark suit with tools around his waist. His face was tired but calm. And he said nothing, not a word, not a sound. He only looked at her, then walked past her. She followed him slowly. He went straight to one of the broken towers. He touched it, studied it, opened a panel. And then, he began to work. For hours, he worked with tools from his belt, fixing wires, cleaning parts, scanning with strange devices. The girl watched from behind a rock. Why was he here? What was he doing? And why didn't he speak? As the sun began to set, the tower made a noise, a soft beep, then a glow. For the first time in years, the tower came to life. The girl gasped. The light touched the sand, the sky, even her face. Something inside her woke up. Hope, just a small spark of it. The man stepped back and looked at the tower, still silent. Then he turned and walked to the next broken machine, and again he began to work. Days passed. He didn't ask for help, didn't ask for food, but he built every day. One more machine woke up. Lights returned, doors opened, panels glowed. The dead place was no longer fully dead. The girl started leaving small things for him, food, water, a piece of cloth for cleaning. He never said thank you, but he always used them. She never asked questions, and he never gave answers. But something had changed. She was no longer alone, not truly, and that made all the difference. One evening, as she watched him from a distance, she saw him connect a small device to a large screen. It turned on, and showed a face. Her face. She stepped back, afraid. How did he do that? Why her face? He didn't look at her, just pointed at the screen, then typed one word. Why? She didn't know how to answer. She shook her head and walked away. But the question stayed with her. Why was she here? Why was he helping? Why now? That night, she looked at the stars. The silence felt different. Not empty, but full. Full of questions. Full of mystery. And maybe full of a new beginning. Because now, someone had come. Someone who didn't speak, but still said everything, through machines, through actions, through silence. And she, the girl who sat alone, was no longer forgotten. The man who builds. He did not speak, he did not smile, he did not look back. He only built. Every morning the girl woke up to the sound of quiet movement, metal clicking, wires humming, strange blue lights glowing. The man was already at work, long before sunrise. He moved with purpose, like he knew exactly what he was doing, like he had done this before many times in many places, but no one had come to this planet for years. So how did he know these machines? How did he know this technology, this ancient alien tech? The girl watched him from behind walls, rocks, and shadows, sometimes close, sometimes far. She still didn't speak to him, and he never tried. But deep inside, she wanted answers. And she felt something darker, too. Fear. Fear that something bigger was happening. He had now fixed 4 machines, towers, scanners, old defense gates, energy panels. Each time he fixed one, it spoke, for just a second, not in words, but in deep mechanical sounds, like a machine waking from a dream. One day, he opened a control panel in the ground, and inside, it was glowing, not red, not green, but white, a soft white light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The girl gasped quietly. She had lived here for years and never seen that panel. He reached into it and pulled out a strange cube. It was floating in his hand, spinning slowly. He turned and looked directly at her for the first time. No words, no signal, just a long stare. Then he dropped the cube onto the sand and walked away. She stepped forward, her hands shaking. She picked up the cube, and it began to speak, not in her language, not in his, but in something older, a language from the stars. The voice was cold and full of power. It said, "The key has been found. Phase 1 begins." Then the cube turned black. She dropped it, her heart racing. What key? What phase? Was he building something dangerous or something that would save them all? That night, the sky changed. One star blinked 3 times, then disappeared. She knew that was no star. It was a satellite, and it had just been activated. She ran to the highest point of the ruins and looked out. The machines were waking up across the land, lights blinking in patterns, machines turning slowly, like a sleeping army rising from the dust. And still the man said nothing. He only looked up, watching the sky like he was waiting for someone or something. The next morning she found him drawing in the dirt, strange symbols, circles, lines connecting machines across the planet. She realized he was building a network, a system, something huge. She finally asked, her voice soft, "Why are you doing this?" He didn't answer. He only wrote one word in the sand, warning. Then he stood and walked away, leaving her with more questions than ever. What was he warning them about? Who was he trying to stop? Or call? Was he trying to save the galaxy or bring something terrible here? That evening, while exploring a machine he had fixed, she found a recording hidden deep in the system. It showed a planet, on fire, ships crashing, cities falling. A machine voice whispered, "Do not awaken the gate." She turned toward the hill where the man was working, and her heart sank because what he was building looked exactly like a gate, a tall structure with glowing lines, spinning rings, and a silent center. It wasn't just a power station. It was something ancient, powerful, maybe forbidden, and he was almost done. She wanted to stop him, but she also wanted to know, what's on the other side of the gate? Why was a human sent to build it? Why now, after all this time? And still he said nothing, not a word, not a sound. He only built, and the machines around him whispered, like they knew something terrible was coming. Secrets in the sand. The sand was not just sand. It was history, it was memory, and it was hiding something. The girl walked alone now. The human was far away, building, always building. But her mind was on the cube, the message it gave, the strange white light. The word, Phase 1. She couldn't sleep that night, not because of fear, but because she felt the planet itself had started to breathe again, and she wanted to know why. So, while the man worked in silence, she dug into the old ground. She followed the machines he had awakened, traced the wires under her feet, and found something deep beneath the sand. A door, not metal, not stone, but something smoother. When she touched it, it opened. Inside was a chamber, dark, cold, untouched for maybe thousands of years. Glowing symbols floated in the air, not just technology, but something more, something sacred. She stepped inside, and the door closed behind her. The air shifted, lights flickered, a machine voice echoed in the walls. "Welcome, descendant." She froze. Descendant? She had never heard that word before. The walls came alive, screens showed images, her planet, her people. The girl saw warriors, cities in the sky, machines like gods. But then, darkness, fires, wars, betrayal, and sorrow. Inali, a sentence. They left her behind to silence the gate. Her chest tightened. Was this her story? Was she the key? Was she not punished, but chosen? She fell to her knees. Everything she believed was now dust. She had not been forgotten. She had been placed to protect, to wait, until the right one came, the human, the man who builds, the one who doesn't speak, but understands. The walls shifted again. A new image appeared, a symbol, same as the one he had drawn in the dirt. The network, the machines, the gate, everything he was doing was written here, thousands of years ago. He wasn't just fixing things. He was following a blueprint. And that meant one terrifying truth. He knew. He knew before he arrived. He knew about the machines, the planet, maybe even her. She ran from the chamber. The wind outside had changed. It was faster, sharper. The sky was turning a deeper red. She climbed the ridge to find him. He was at the top, placing the final pieces of the gate. It was almost complete. She shouted, "Tell me what you are doing." He turned slowly, looked at her, and tapped a device on his wrist. A projection appeared in the air, a star map, dozens of red circles blinking. She recognized some. They were dead worlds, destroyed, burned, vanished from the galaxy. He typed a word into the air. "They're coming." Her heart stopped. "Who?" she whispered. He showed another word, one she had never heard, but when she saw the symbol beside it, her whole body went cold. A tall shadow with empty eyes and metal skin. A race that had no voice, no peace, only hunger, the hollow. "They're coming," he repeated, "and only the gate can stop them." But then, behind them, something blinked in the sky. She turned. A ship, small but fast, alien design, not human. It was coming toward them, the first visitor in years, and it wasn't friendly. He stepped forward, tapped his wrist again. A pulse of light shot from the gate. The ship stopped in midair, frozen, not destroyed, just paused. He knew before he arrived. He knew about the machines, the planet, maybe even her. She ran from the chamber. The wind outside had changed. It was faster, sharper. The sky was turning a deeper red. She climbed the ridge to find him. He was at the top, placing the final pieces of the gate. It was almost complete, she shouted. "Tell me what you are doing." He turned slowly, looked at her, and tapped a device on his wrist. A projection appeared in the air, a star map, dozens of red circles blinking. She recognized some. They were dead worlds, destroyed, burned, vanished from the galaxy. He typed a word into the air. "They're coming." Her heart stopped. "Who?" she whispered. He showed another word, one she had never heard, but when she saw the symbol beside it, her whole body went cold. A tall shadow with empty eyes and metal skin, a race that had no voice, no peace, only hunger, the hollow. "They're coming," he repeated, "and only the gate can stop them." But then, behind them, something blinked in the sky. She turned. A ship, small but fast, alien design, not human. It was coming toward them, the first visitor in years, and it wasn't friendly. He stepped forward, tapped his wrist again. A pulse of light shot from the gate. The ship stopped in midair, frozen, not destroyed, just paused. She looked at him. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice cracking. He looked at her for a long time and finally spoke. Just one word. His first and only word since he arrived. "Survivor." Then he turned back to the gate, and the machines around him began to hum louder than ever. Something was waking, something big, and it was no longer hiding beneath the sand. The message wakes the galaxy. The gate was alive now, not fully open, but awake, and its voice was no longer silent. A signal had gone out, fast, sharp, loud, not through sound but through the stars, across the galaxy. Akinis heard it. Satellites blinked. Ancient sensors turned on for the first time in 1,000 years. Some heard it with fear, some heard it with rage, and others with deep, shaking hope. In the dark corner of the galaxy, a warship turned toward the signal. Its captain, a tall creature with 4 eyes and silver skin, looked at the blinking screen and growled, "The gate is online." He opened a channel. "Send word to the council," he said. "Send warships." The girl felt the change before she saw it. The sky had become darker, the wind sharper, and deep underground. The machines no longer hummed. They roared. The human stood at the gate, his face calm, his hands steady, but his eyes were heavy. He had built the gate, but now he had to protect it. The girl ran to him. "They're coming, aren't they?" she asked. He nodded, tapped his wrist. A hologram opened. Dozens of dots moving through space. Ships, alien ships. "The galaxy thinks the gate is a weapon," he typed, "but it's not." She looked at him, confused. "Then what is it?" He wrote a word she had never seen, but when she touched it, her mind filled with images, peace, not of silence, but of balance. The gate was not a weapon. It was a lock to something ancient, hidden, and terrible, and someone had just started to open it. Suddenly the ground shook. A massive ship entered the sky, dark, long, glowing red underneath. It cast a shadow across the land. A voice echoed from above. "Turn off the gate, or we will." The girl looked at the human. He didn't move. He stood tall, eyes on the ship. The voice came again. "You are activating forbidden tech. This world is under protection of the Galactic Order." The girl stepped forward. "This is our world," she shouted. "You left it to die." There was silence. Then, a beam of red light dropped from the ship, a weapon charging. The girl screamed. But before it hit, the gate pulsed. A wave of white light blasted upward, not fire, not destruction, interference. The beam froze, stopped in the air like a paused memory. The ship shook, alarms blaring. It pulled back, retreating slowly, afraid, not of the girl, not of the planet, but of the gate. The girl turned to the human. "What did you do?" He showed her a symbol on his wrist device. It was glowing now. Defense mode. But there was more. More messages arriving. More ships changing direction. The galaxy was waking up, and not all of it was friendly. That night, the girl walked alone. She thought about the word lock and wondered, if there's a lock, there must be something behind it. She returned to the secret chamber beneath the sand. The machines welcomed her now. The walls glowed brighter than before. She asked them, "What is behind the gate?" The answer came slowly, not in words but in visions. A black sun, a silent swarm, worlds turning to stone, stars eaten by shadows. She fell back, gasping. The hollow. Not just a myth, not just a threat, but real and sealed, long ago, behind the very gate the human had built. Now she understood. The gate was not just to stop them. It was their prison, and something, or someone, was trying to break it open. She ran back to the surface, found the human sitting beside the gate, not working, just staring at the sky. "They're trying to open it," she said. "Not you, not us, someone else." He nodded once, slowly, then tapped a final word into his device, one word that sent shivers down her spine. Phase 2. The gate shifted. Its rings began to spin. Its lights turned blue. The sky above them cracked with energy, and far across the stars, the hollow began to stir. The builders must fall. They came from the sky, not one but 5. Black warships, cold and sharp like knives in the dark. They carried the flags of the Galactic Council, but they came. With no peace, only silence. The girl watched from the edge of the ridge. The human stood at the center of the gate's ring. Machines whirred quietly around him. Power building beneath his feet. Above him, the ships floated like giant shadows, watching, waiting, judging. Then, one ship spoke. "This planet is under quarantine. You are in violation of Code Alpha Zeta 9. Deactivate the gate immediately." The girl stepped forward. "This gate is not yours," she shouted. "It was here long before your codes." There was no reply, only a hum. Weapons charging, the human raised his hand. The gate responded instantly. A light shimmered in the air. A transparent wall of energy formed around the gate and its machines. A shield, not to attack, but to protect. The first blast came fast. A red beam, pure heat. It struck the shield and vanished. The second blast followed, then a third. The shield held. But it was shaking. The girl turned to the human. "You can't fight them all." He looked at her, then tapped his device. One word appeared in the air. "I'm not." Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. Large machines rose from the sand. Long arms, spinning plates, old defense towers. He hadn't just fixed the gate. He had rebuilt the entire battlefield. The machines came alive, firing not to destroy but to disable, targeting engines, weapons, communication lines. The warship scrambled, surprised. One was hit, spinning out of orbit, crashing into the far cliffs with a distant boom. But then, another voice, a voice not from the ships, not from the gate, but from below. From deep underground, the girl froze. So did the human. The voice was not angry. It was welcoming, warm, almost soft, but filled with something wrong. It said, Phase 3 approved. Builder units confirmed. Open the seal. The girl stepped back. No, she whispered. That's not from us. The gate began to spin faster. Its color changed from blue to red. The sky above cracked with thunder. The human tapped his device in panic, trying to stop the signal, trying to block the command. But he was locked out. The girl looked around. The machines were no longer under their control. They were listening to something else. The hollow. The seal was breaking. From inside, a loud crack echoed through the valley, then silence. Then a low, deep growl. Not animal, not machine, but something in between. From the far side of the gate, a figure stepped out. Black, tall, without a face. Its body shimmered like smoke over metal, and its steps left no sound. The girl couldn't breathe. The human reached for a weapon on his belt, but the figure raised one finger, and the weapon melted. The ships above pulled back, scanning the figure, then running. One ship sent a final message. This world is compromised. The builders must fall. And then it fired. Not at the hollow, but at the gate. The beam raced down like fire from a god. The human threw up his hands. The shield burst outward, catching the beam just in time, but barely. The figure turned to the girl, its voice now inside her mind. You opened the lock. Now the silence ends. She collapsed, her ear ringing. The figure stepped forward, but the human ran between them. He didn't speak, he didn't fight, he simply held up a device and pressed it. The gate roared, light burst out. The hollow was thrown back, screaming without sound. The gate sealed again. For now, the girl looked up, shaking. The human fell to his knees, his face pale, his energy nearly gone. More ships were coming, not allies, not enemies, but all with one goal. Stop the builders. The girl helped him stand. We can't hold this alone, she said. He nodded and tapped one final word. Then we need the lost ones. The last gift of the old ones. The air had changed, heavier now, filled with static, fear, and something else. Awakening. The hollow had shown its face. Just one, but it was enough. Enough to prove the legends were real. Enough to shake the galaxy. Ships fled, machines froze. But the girl stayed, and so did the human. She helped him into the chamber beneath the gate. His body was weak, but his hands were still steady. He connected his device to the old wall, and light poured out. Symbols danced, spinning stars, broken timelines, maps of systems long gone. Then one word appeared, glowing gold. Activation incomplete. The girl touched the symbol. It shifted into a handprint, her hand. The walls pulsed with light, and the floor opened. Stairs led downward, into a place no one had walked in 1,000 years. A vault, a tomb, a memory. She and the human stepped inside, and the door sealed behind them. The silence here was different, not empty, but waiting. They walked past rows of statues, tall, proud figures made of crystal and stone, aliens, warriors, scholars, all from her kind, but stronger, ancient. At the center of the vault was a pillar floating above it. A crown, not of gold, but of light. When she approached, the crown spoke, not with sound, but through her bones, through her blood. Daughter of the builders, the last seed of the first flame. Your time has come. She fell to her knees, tears in her eyes. I was left behind, she whispered. I was forgotten. The crown pulsed. No, you were hidden, because they feared what you would become. She stood slowly, her hands shaking. The crown lowered, touched her head. In that moment, she saw everything, the past, the war, the creation of the gate, the first builders, their fall, and the final order. If the hollow return, awaken the heir. She was the heir, not of power, but of balance. Behind her, the human spoke, for only the second time. Now you know, he said. His voice was tired but strong. I wasn't sent to build the gate. I was sent to wake you. She turned to him, eyes glowing with a light that didn't exist before. You knew. He nodded. My people found the message long ago. A warning buried in a dead star. It said one world was left. One heir must rise, and a human must guide her. She looked at the old machines around her and saw what they truly were. Not weapons, not just tech, but memories and keys. She raised her hand, and the vault opened like a flower. Above them, the gate shifted. It stopped turning red. It turned white, pure, clear, and ancient. The hollow felt it. Wherever they were, they screamed through the void, not in fear, but in rage, because the lock was no longer controlled by machines, but by her. Outside, new ships entered orbit, not enemies, but ones that flew no flags. Old ships, hidden ones. They came because they felt the signal, the return of the heir. The girl stood at the center of the vault, her voice no longer soft. We are not broken, she said. We are not gone. We are the builders, and we have one gift left to give. She touched the floor, and the final machine woke. Not a weapon, not a ship, but something larger, a world seed, a last creation of the old ones, built to restore balance, to grow life where hollow bring death. But to use it, she must leave, enter the gate, and pass through the edge of space. The human stepped beside her. If you go, you may not return. She looked at him. If I don't go, no one will. He nodded once, then gave her his device. A guide, a promise, a goodbye. The gate turned once more, bright as a star. She stepped into its light and vanished. The machines went still, the ships above waited, and the humans stood alone again, but not in silence, because the stars had heard, the hollow had felt it, and the war had just begun. The girl who spoke, the man who stayed silent. The stars were not quiet anymore. They whispered, they watched, they waited. The gate had closed, the girl was gone, and the hollow were rising. Across the galaxy, systems burned, planets fell silent, signals were lost, and the councils argued in fear. But one man on one lonely planet still stood by the machine he built, still silent, still watching. The human engineer had no rank, no army, no weapons left, but he had time. And one final task. He walked to the edge of the cliff, looked to the stars, and pressed a button on his wrist device. The beacon returned, weak, distant, but alive. She was alive. The heir, the girl, she had crossed the gate, and what she found was a seed, not just a machine, but the last life engine of the builders. It floated in deep space, hidden inside a dark nebula, alive but cold, waiting for one with the builder's code. When her hand touched the heart of the machine, the stars shook, not from power, but from remembrance. She became one with its memory. She saw worlds the hollow had erased. She saw names lost to time. She saw the first war, and the terrible price her kind had paid. She was never meant to fight. She was meant to choose. To speak not just for her world, but for every voice silenced by the hollow. Back on the planet, the human was preparing. Ships were coming, hundreds of them. Alien factions, old enemies, greedy powers, all thinking the gate was a weapon, all wanting to control it. He didn't argue, he didn't explain, he only waited. Then, she returned. The gate roared open like a newborn sun, and she stepped through. No longer just a girl, but something more. Her body glowed softly, not with magic, but with understanding. She had touched the last truth, and it had changed her. The crowd of ships paused. They scanned her. They feared her. They didn't know whether to bow or shoot. She raised her hand, and from the gate, the seed followed. It floated behind her, large as a city, alive, glowing, and silent. A message pulsed from it, not in words but in emotion. Peace, warning, final chance. Some ships turned and fled, some powered their weapons. But before the first missile launched, the hollow arrived, tearing through space like knives through cloth. No ships, only shapes, black, shifting, hollow-eyed. The gate cracked from the pressure of their arrival. The human looked up. One final time, he tapped the device on his wrist. The defense towers activated. The old machines rose again, but this time they were not alone. The seed opened, and from it came light, not a weapon, but a wave. It touched the hollow, and they screamed, not in pain, but in memory, because this light was pure builder code. a sound they could not delete, a truth they could not escape. The girl stepped forward, her voice finally rising across the stars. "You do not belong here," she said, "and we are not yours to consume." The light from the seed became stronger. The hollow began to fracture, not explode, but break apart. Like lies hit by truth, one by one they dissolved and the sky grew quiet again. The fleet watched in silence. Even the war-hungry had no words. The girl turned to them and said, "We are not at war, but we will never be silent again." The ships bowed, not out of fear, but out of understanding. The girl looked at the human. His job was done. She knew he would not stay. He handed her the device, tapped one word into it, his last message, "Build better." Then he turned and walked into the light of the gate. No goodbye, no sound, only purpose. She never saw him again. But legends say he still walks across forgotten stars, building in silence, watching, waiting for the next voice to rise. And she, the girl who once sat alone, became the first voice of a new age. Not a queen, not a god, just someone who spoke when the galaxy needed to listen.